Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto has ultimate power and developed a few special abilities, part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this and comment for next part. And now let's start the fanfic. It was peaceful in Konohagakure no Sato, also known as the village hidden in the leaves. Twilight was just ending and the night was beginning with the appearance of the first stars in the night sky. The scene was tranquil in every sense with the fading light capturing the village until Itadakimasu was the rather low appreciation Tyuki and Ayame of Ichiraku Ramen received from their favorite customer Uzumaki Naruto, the so-called demon brat, among other special names. To this day Naruto couldn't understand the meaning of the names or what he had done to deserve his titles. Naruto couldn't help but think, I know I've pulled a lot of pranks over the years, but to be called a demon and to be treated the way I do, it just doesn't make sense. I didn't even start my pranks until my second year in the academy, but the names have been flying around since I can remember. These thoughts rolled through Naruto's mind almost daily since the names were used just as often, but that didn't matter tonight. Tonight was a very special night for Naruto. Not only was he going to pull off his most ingenious prank ever, but it was also the night before his genin exam. Tonight he planned to get revenge on the stuck-up white-eyed Thames. Out of all the times he had been mistreated, beaten, thrown out of stores and refused service, never had someone done what these Thames had done. It was unforgivable. Naruto-kun, are you really going to go through with doing a prank on the Hyuga, are you? Was the concerned question from Ayame, knowing just as every other villager, the physical and political might the clan wielded. In a solemn voice Naruto replied, Ayame Nichan, you've seen how I've been treated all my life. Tyuki and Ayame looked down, remembering everything they had seen. I can ignore all of that because I have a few people like you who are kind to me, but after what those three said and did, as he said those words Naruto's fist tightened until his chopsticks cracked apart in his hand as he remembered the indignity he suffered at the hands of those men. At least after a beating he had his pride, but these men didn't even allow him that. The night before. Thanks for dinner Tyuki Jiji, said Naruto as he began to stand from his stool. Anytime Naruto, you just train hard for your exam. With the cheers from his favorite chef Naruto began to leave his favorite, and possibly only, eating place. As he exited the bar he bumped right into someone, almost knocking them over. Sorry about that, it was my fault. Naruto apologized as he looked up into those void pale white eyes that always sent a shiver down his spine. Those eyes just don't look right. At least that one girl in my class with those eyes has some color to them, but these ones are just creepy. As Naruto was getting up he was roughly shoved back down to the ground by one of the other two Hyuga. How dare you act in such a callous way to us, you little brat? What do you think you're doing attacking one of the noble members of the Hyuga clan? Said one of the two bodyguards forcefully, the disgust and hatred clear in his voice. Attacking? I just bumped into him. I even apologized, pleaded Naruto, trying to avoid another fight with the villagers. Too little too late, demon. Naruto then received a harsh chakra-enhanced strike, sending him right into a nearby wall, leaving a few cracks from the impact of his body. At this point Tyuki was heading over to help, but one look from Naruto stopped him in his tracks. While straining with the pain, and spitting out a little blood, Naruto said to his assailants, I don't know what your problem is with me, but I already apologized for the accident and I don't want trouble, so I'll be going home now. Naruto struggled to his feet and began to shamble in the direction of his apartment, only to hear the words that would haunt him for months to come. Not that he was afraid of the Hyuga, far from it. It was the truth in the words that hurt him so. Even if he didn't want to believe it, he knew they were telling the truth. As if a demon like you has a home to go to. No one's waiting for you, no one wants you. You're just a little demon who will never be accepted by anyone. Worthless. The one who seemed like the leader of the three said these words with ice in his voice and the most evil smirk plastered on his face. After hearing the icy words of the man, Naruto finally snapped. All the years of abuse, neglect, and indifference towards him flashed before his eyes. Every injustice, so-called punishment, and the glares filled with hate and loathing. He always hated the villagers for the way he was treated, but he'd always just pushed it away and continued on heading for his dream. He knew acting out any more than he did would only give them more of a reason to hate him. This, however, was too much. He could deal with all the pain, loneliness, and hate, but to have it thrown in his face, his pride would never allow such a thing. In a rage he had never known before, his eyes flashed blood red, and he blurred out of existence, shocking the old man and Ayame. Then, just as suddenly, he reappeared right in between the three Hyuga. To say the three men were shocked would be an extreme understatement. 1 minute they were taunting the demon brat, waiting for it to start crying, and the next he appears right in their faces with those piercing red eyes burning into them. Using their shock, Naruto, in one fluid motion, kicks the legs right out from under the one Hyuga standing to the right of the leader with a sweeping roundhouse, only to pull ninja wire out of his sleeve to wrap around the arms of the Hyuga on the left, who tried to strike the side of his head only for it to brush across his left arm. Too late, Naruto realizes that the strike was some kind of jutsu and, to his shock, his whole left arm went numb with a slight burning in it. As the pain from the strike set in, Naruto's rage disappeared as quickly as it came. Shit, what was that? He thought, now freaking out. I can't move my arm. This is bad. Why did I lose my temper like that? Two of them are obviously Chunin and I don't know about the other. I might have a chance against one Chunin. While Naruto was recovering from the attack, the first Hyuga was up again and was able to land a devastating blow to side of Naruto's head, sending him straight into the same wall as before, cracking it further. Take that, you insolent little brat. The hit to his head was making his mind swim, and Naruto was barely standing with the pain freshly pumping through him. You filthy little demon. How dare you disgrace the mighty Hyuga like this? As a member of the head family, I will pass down your punishment. Looking on with dull blue eyes, Naruto could easily tell that they had gathered quite the crowd and that the Hyuga in front of him was screaming something or other and taking the strangest stance he had ever seen. Even though he was barely aware of his surroundings at the time, because of the pain he was in, he couldn't help but be interested in the jutsu. The Hyuga took his stance, crouching low to the ground, legs spread, stretching both arms in opposite directions, palms facing up. As he took this stance, he said the simple words, "You are within the field of my hake." Divination. While Naruto looked on with hazy eyes, all he could think was, why does this always happen to me? What have I done in my life? And what the is he doing? After this simple thought, the last thing Naruto could hear was a roar of Hake Rokujiyansho. Divination field: 64 strikes, 2 strikes, 4 strikes, 8 strikes, 16 strikes, 32 strikes, 64 strikes. Ha! One strike after another landed painfully on Naruto, and with every one he felt less and less, which he was thankful for. With the final strike, Naruto was thrown viciously into the same wall for a third and final time. The final blow was too strong for the already damaged wall to take, and it finally gave way and collapsed right on top of our hero, covering him from sight. Once the attack was finished, Ayame was crying on her father's shoulder for Naruto's pain. Those Tems, to do that to a child, were Tsuki's only words to express his anger. Before the crowd had completely dispersed, the leader of the three Hyuga gave the simple statement, "Trash belongs in the garbage." With that said, several sadistic grins appeared in the crowd as they watched happily. Before either Tsuki or Ayame could stop it, the two branch members had already tossed Naruto's broken body into a nearby dumpster and walked away behind the main family member, leaving the caring ramen cooks to aid the fallen boy. End flashback. I can't let that go so easily, Ayame-ni-chan, said Naruto solemnly. Naruto-kun, what are you planning to do? Asked a very concerned Ayame. Naruto looked serious for a moment before breaking out into a foxy grin. It is better if you don't know Ayame Nichan. Just be sure to be open early tomorrow. I'll be needing breakfast when I'm done. And I'm sure you'll get a good laugh too. With that said, Naruto left the ramen bar with a black pack slung over his shoulder, filled with who knows what. There have been many pranksters in Konoha's history, but none as famous as Uzumaki Naruto. He has pulled more pranks than any other and has yet to be caught for any of them by anyone other than Iruka or the Sandaime Hokage, the legendary professor himself, and even then they have had a hard time proving he had pulled them, even though it was obvious he had. This alone has made him legendary for his stealth and pranking abilities within the village. He has even been able to prank multiple Chunin, Junin, and any others that have gotten on his bad side. The only ones that seem out of league for Naruto's prank abilities are the Anbu and the Hokage himself. But that didn't stop him from trying now, did it? Even while being perused by the Anbu, Naruto was still able to give them the slip somehow or another. The Anbu were always able to find him and even track him rather easily, but every time they had cornered him he was able to disappear again. Many had started to believe he knew some advanced form of the Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker, or teleportation technique, but they have never found out if he did. Many just chalk it up to his foxy ways. After all these years of pranks, only Yumuino Iruka has been able to capture the elusive blonde on a regular basis. Whether Iruka's skills surpass Naruto's or if the blonde just surrenders to the scarred Chunin is unknown, but to this day no one knows how he always manages to escape. His knowledge of Konoha's alleys and shortcuts was second to none, almost infamous really, along with his own Warok no Jutsu, which was the cause of a lot of the escapes, but the mystery of how he does what he does is still a mystery. Tonight he wasn't playing a prank on just anyone, oh no. No Anbu, Junin or ninja in general could compare with this. Tonight he was going to prank the famous Hyuga clan, wielders of the Byakugan White Evil Eye. The rumored all-seeing eyes. He had heard rumors of the White Eye's ability to see through solid objects, 360 degrees, the chakra circulatory system and even the tentacutsus points. Scary, and supposedly it was supposed to do even more. This alone meant extreme caution. That is exactly why we now find our hero hiding behind a building on the edge of the Hyuga's compound. Using the cover of night, he is preparing for the upcoming mission. Changing out of his signature orange jumpsuit, Naruto began re-examining his plans for the night. Everything has to be perfect. Let's see. First I need to get past the guards and then sneak into the first of the 4 buildings in the compound. 2 of them seem to be living quarters and the other one seems to be a kitchen and storage of some kind, with the last, apparently the main building, most likely filled with greeting halls, meeting spots, and other boring stuff like that. The garden that runs between the 2 residential buildings would be the best cover. I wonder why the family is split into 2 houses. They could have made it easier for me by all being in the same building. Naruto then looked more closely to try and see if there was some kind of trick to the one of the buildings were actually a trap for intruders, then he most likely would miss breakfast. It seems one of those buildings could hold them all, so why would they separate themselves? I don't see any traps, maybe they just like their space. But one of the sections seems to be more lavish than the other. I wonder if maybe there is a difference between the 2 groups. Naruto decided to finish his thought aloud. Well, it doesn't make a difference now. Naruto stood wearing black Anbu-style pants that seemed to absorb all light around them. They ended with basic black bandages wrapped tightly around his ankles, leading into black shinobi sandals with red trim that ended higher on his calves for better support. On his upper body he wore a skin-tight black long-sleeved t-shirt, black fingerless gloves, and bandages tied around the lower half of his face to hide the telltale whisker marks. This is much better. I wish I could dress like this all the time, but it took me nearly a month to save up for this set of clothes. With the little money I have left after my living budget, not to mention I had to use a henge transformation to get into the store to buy them, too bad I can't. I like orange and all, but it's just a little too noticeable. But if it wasn't for me having to learn stealth in bright orange, I probably wouldn't be this good. Maybe I could get a black and orange outfit, or maybe just a mask. Well, that's enough daydreaming, it's time to move. Before Naruto ran off, he tied a long black cloth over his head, hiding his hair completely to finish his disguise. They may be able to see through solid objects, but it doesn't hurt to be safe. Moving as quickly and quietly as he could, Naruto jumped the outer wall of the garden, and while staying in the shadows, he began circling the inner wall of the compound, looking for an opening in the guard's watch. Luckily for him, none of them seemed to use their prized Byakugan. I was worried that this was going to end before it began. The arrogance of the Hyuga was ridiculous. Only one guard was stationed at every entrance to the complex and 3 walking the grounds. Not even guards at the doors to the houses. After circling the grounds twice, he finally saw the perfect opening. With a burst of chakra-enhanced speed, he rushed to the tree closest to his target, and with a quick rebound off the tree, he flew to what he assumed to be a hallway window. The closest guard looked around to see what the rustling sound a moment ago was, but only found a slight unsettling of dust. With a slight shrug, he decided to patrol the houses just to be safe. Once inside, Naruto quickly merged with the shadows of the walls, just as he was trained to do. He then began his search for his intended targets. While moving from room to room, Naruto practiced paranoia he had never known. At the slightest noise, moving shadow, new scent, or just an out-of-place shiver on his skin, he would hinge into a rug or other common item in an instant. It was a good practice too, as his paranoia had saved him a couple of times from a guard making his rounds. 3 hours after the start of his infiltration, Naruto was reaching the end of his job. Slipping into every room of the compound proved to be more of a challenge than he had thought it would be. The place was huge, almost maze-like, but he had still done it. Now, on the last few rooms, Naruto was getting the biggest swell of pride for his own accomplishments, since he had mastered Kawarimi no Jutsu, replacement without hand seals. He hardly got recognized for anything other than pranks. At least when he pulled pranks, people were awed until they discovered it was him. Some praise is better than none. As soon as he entered the next room and began to acquire his target, he caught a familiar scent that made his stomach drop. The only thing that he could think was, Hinata. As he turned to look at the sleeping girl in front of him, while holding a pair of lacy violet panties. Several thoughts ran through his head, but the most prevalent was, I can't do this to Hinata, she's never done anything to me. She's actually been one of the nicest people in the whole village. Also, I had no idea Hinata had this kind of side to her, he thought while putting the panties back and finding a lot more racier ones in varying colors and designs, earning a raised eyebrow. As he thought of this, images of a blushing, stuttering Hinata that was complimenting him in a quiet, almost whispering voice entered his mind. Next came all the times he spotted her following him with that same blush, as well as her habit of poking her fingers together. He couldn't help but wonder, I wonder why she follows me sometimes. She also hides whenever I turn her way or try to approach her. She obviously isn't following me around to talk, maybe there's another reason. With a slight blush, he decides, no, he couldn't do it, he couldn't prank her. With one last look at the peacefully sleeping girl, he slipped out of the room just as quietly as he had come. Now to finish the job and get out of here. Good night, Hinata. I hope you like the show in the morning. The following morning in Konohagakure no Sato could only be described as pure chaos. All over the village, in trees, on the ground, hanging from just about everywhere you could think to look, was the entire Hyuga clan's clothing, from their signature cream-colored jackets to their unmentionables. While the entirety of the Hyuga clan was out gathering what was left of their pride, our blonde hero was sitting at his favorite restaurant enjoying a well-earned breakfast, the food of kings, ramen. Even though Naruto had just gone an entire night without sleep, here he was in the same clothes as the night before, except for the absence of the cloth covering his hair, wrappings around his face, and the addition of his signature orange jacket hanging open, showing off his tight black shirt. He also had his goggles hanging around his neck as he listened to the praise of his favorite chefs. "I can't believe you actually did it, you little brat," was Tuki's boisterous congratulations. "Everyone is going to be talking about this one for years." "Naruto-kun," was the excited comment from Ayame. "Ha ha ha, I hope so. What else would you expect from the next Hokage when he pulls a prank?" Then taking a more serious tone, Naruto said, "This was really meant to drop them down a few pegs though." "Really, how does a prank do that? I understand having their clothes in, well, you know what's thrown all over the village being embarrassing, but how would it drop the view of their skills or reputation? The Hyuga are one of Konoha's 4 noble clans after all," asked Yuki as he handed Naruto another bowl of ramen. "Well, it really means nothing to normal villagers, but as a funny prank. On the other hand, to train shinobi, it's a matter of village security." Not only was the compound of the most powerful clan infiltrated, but every room was entered and raided without notice, was Naruto's response with noodles hanging from his mouth. "Okay, Naruto-kun, but what does that prove other than that you're sneaky?" Ayame asked with a grin while serving another customer. "Well, let me answer your question with another one. If I could sneak into their compound to steal their clothes by entering every room one by one without being noticed, what's to stop me from sneaking in there and slitting their throats while they slept?" When this was said, the entire restaurant went silent with shock. The few people that were in the building this early were listening intently to the legendary prankster's explanation of his masterpiece. Now at the realization that an academy student, a legendary one, but an academy student nonetheless, could possibly wipe out the Hyuga in one night was alarming. It would be like the Uchiha all over again. If the demon brat could do this, then who else was capable of it? Even the most skilled of shinobi are powerless when asleep. Before anyone could say another word, a loud scream of, "I found him. He's over here," came from just outside the shop. When Naruto peered out, he saw 2 Hyuga, 3 Chunin, and 1 really pissed off looking Hyuga Hiyashi. "Ha ha, hi guys, bye guys." And with that, the chase was on. Throughout the village, people could hear the screams of, "Get back here, brat. You won't escape this time. You've gone too far this time, Naruto," and of course his favorite, "Get the demon." Even with all this, Naruto couldn't help but have fun with the chase. "You losers are just jealous that you don't have the skill or guts to do what I do," called Naruto while jumping from building to building. "Get back here, Naruto. You will be taken to see the Sandaime for punishment. If you give yourself up, your sentence will be reduced," came the cries of his pursuers. The chase had started at around 6 a.m. that morning and was already well into 8 o'clock, and they were still not even remotely close to capturing Naruto. "This kid is insane. How can he have this kind of stamina? We never should have split up from the main group." While the 2 Chunin were having their strategy meeting, Naruto was having a nice breather on a high balcony. "These guys just won't give up. Normally I would just hide for a while to rest, but with Hyuga after me, I can barely stop for 2 minutes before I'm found. At this rate, I'll be caught for the first time." With this grim realization, Naruto decided to try and get to the academy as fast as he could. Especially since his exam was supposed to be in a little over a half an hour. Moving with the shadows, he headed in the direction of the academy, but before he could get more than 25 feet, there was a cry of, "There he is." As Naruto spun around, all he could do was yell his horror at what he was seeing. Ah no. Standing in the direction he had just come from was a group of 9 Hyuga guards, 6 Chunin, 2 Anbu, numerous random villagers, and what looked like at least 15 Hyuga females with a "kill you painfully" look in their eyes. With that sight and a large amount of fear, he was off. At around 9 a.m., Naruto had finally lost them by using every trick he knew. Every shortcut, dead end, camouflage, henge, kawarimi, and, to his great displeasure, he had even resorted to using his Waroke no Jutsu. He had only really created that jutsu to improve his skill with henge and to prank Iruka. He had never dreamed one day he'd be relying on it. As Naruto was slipping around the last corner on his way to the academy, he let out a breath of relief, saying, "I finally made it. Hee, I knew those bakas could never catch me." From behind Naruto came a calm and slightly mocking voice. "Oh really, Naruto? What are you doing being late for class? And not only that, but you almost missed your exam." If Hiyashi's glaring, a group of murderous women, and actual Anbu chasing after him had been scary, then this was just plain terrifying. With a scream of fright and a 12-foot jump in the air, Naruto spun around and pointed at his sensei, yelling, "How do you always do that?" Looking at Naruto with a bored expression, Iruka just grabbed him by the collar of his jacket and disappeared in a puff of smoke with a pair of Anbu right on his tail. Inside the classroom, all of the students were chatting amongst themselves on various topics, waiting for the exam to start. The main topic, though, was of course the Great Hyuga humiliation. Questions of, how could that happen? Who did it? Aren't the Hyugas supposed to be all-seeing? Were just a few that flew about the room as the children continued. Some of the more arrogant in the room would reply with foolish ideas like, "It must be another hidden village trying to prove something. It must be a new invisibility jutsu and the Hyuga were the test. No, it's got to be some new kind of Kekai Genkei that can block the Hyuga's power." After about 20 minutes of the students' minds running wild, Iruka puffed into the room with Naruto by the scruff of his neck, followed by the two Anbu that were escorting them, ready to grab Naruto at a moment's notice. At the entrance of these four, everyone went silent to watch what would take place, as well as observe Naruto's change of clothes. The first thing the students notice is the long black Anbu-style pants that end with wrappings and modified black shinobi sandals with red trim. Next they see the long-sleeve skin-tight black shirt and fingerless gloves, as well as his signature orange jacket. He also wore his goggles around his neck, making his hair appear longer, and it flowed around his face slightly. It hung lower and made him look older and more serious to some. Or it could just be the air of tension with two Anbu in the room. Many girls blushed at the sight of the slightly toned muscles that shone through the tight shirt. Since most of the boys wear such baggy clothes, it's a rare sight for them. But what catches everyone's eyes the most are the chains attached to Naruto's wrists, ankles, neck, and all connecting to a plate on his chest with multiple chakra suppression seals on it. At this realization, everyone knew Naruto had done something big. The academy doesn't teach Fujin seals because they are considered high-level techniques and often dangerous. It does, however, teach to recognize common ones, such as exploding note Fujin, basic Fujin for items to be stored in scrolls for travel, and the Fujin on those cuffs used on dangerous nuke nin. "Don't you think this is a little excessive, Anbu-san?" asked Iruka with a frown. "With all due respect, Iruka-san, it took nearly 20 Hyuga, 8 Chunin, 4 Junin, and the two of us Anbu to apprehend him," said the rat-masked Anbu. "What? How could the Dobi be that strong? They needed that many high-level shinobi to catch him. He must have something up his sleeve, and I must have it," was the unbelieving thought of a scheming student. "If it was not for the Hokage's order to turn him over to you for his exam, he would be in a class 3 holding cell waiting for his sentence," was the calm reply from the bear-masked Anbu. "I understand that, but with these chakra cuffs on, there is no way for Naruto to take the exam. I would ask you to please remove them and leave him in my care. I will take full responsibility in making sure he appears for his hearing with the Hokage tomorrow," Iruka forcefully suggested with a rather familiar glare to the two Anbu. "I'm not sure about this. What if he runs again?" Rat asked with uncertainty in his voice. "Unless you already forgot, Anbu-san, I was the one who finally caught him after you all failed for over 3 hours, said a smirking dolphin. After a moment of silence, the bear Anbu did a number of hand seals, too fast for any one of the students to follow, and removed the cuffs. "He's your responsibility now. Don't come crying to us if he gets loose," Bear plainly said. "Thank you, Anbu-san, and don't worry, I'll take care of him," Iruka said, placing a hand on Naruto's head. "Oh, by the way, kid?" Rat inquired. Was Naruto's rather lethargic reply. Nice job on the Hyuga. I don't think even we could have pulled that off, said the rat Anbu, clearly impressed with the boy. After the rat Anbu said those words, the entire class collectively dropped their jaws on the floor, and the collective thought in the room was, Naruto did that. I've known Hiyashi for a long time and I have never seen him that mad, embarrassed, or impressed. Bear murmured in the same voice. Impressed? Naruto asked, unsure. Yeah, kid. When you're at the top like the Hyuga, or it takes something big for them to notice anything. This prank of yours really caught his attention, said Rat in a sing-song voice. By the way, how did you do it anyway? Uruka asked. Now every person in the room was listening intently with their own thoughts on the matter. Stupid Naruto, you're so immature. Yeah, he is cha. Inner bitch. Naruto looks kind of hot in his new clothes and longer hair. I wonder what he would look like with highlights. This is too mendokus. I wonder, Munch, if I can use Munch, the same method to sneak into the kitchen. Munch. Stupid Naruto, he's hogging all the attention. I'll get Akamaru to bite him later. Buzzes. Booze. Interesting. Naruto-kun, thank you for not doing that to me. I would have died of embarrassment. Wait. Naruto was in my room. I'm going to die. Did he find anything? Nothing of mine was missing. Wait, a pair of my panties were unfolded. Naruto-kun was touching my panties. The person who thought this blushed dangerously red before passing out with a nosebleed. How could the Dobi do something like that? The Hyuga were always the Uchiha's rivals. Could the Dobi be that good? He has been catching up lately. He's still a Dobi, but maybe I should keep an eye out. Every little thing that can help is worth it. Maybe I could use the same method for a sneak attack on my brother. Or maybe I finally have a decent sparring partner. I don't want to sound arrogant like some Thames, he said, sending a glare at a certain black-eyed boy, but to tell you the truth, it really wasn't that hard. When I first decided to do it, I was worried, but after a few hours of watching the security, it really wasn't anything special. Naruto caught the entire room's attention when he said this. They all were just too shocked to do anything but listen. Sandame's office. In the Hokage Tower, the Sandame Hokage, Hyuga Hiyashi, the village elites, and the majority of the Council of Elders all listened to the whole discussion going on in Iruka's classroom over the Sandame's crystal ball with interest. Interesting, how is it that this boy was able to sneak into the Hyuga and then call it easy? Asked an intrigued red-eyed Junin. Well, let's continue listening and we can find our answers, said the Sandame with interest, lacing his voice. It seems your daughter has just fainted, Hiyashi-san. Hiyashi sighs. It would seem so, Sandame-sama. I need to solve this problem with her soon before the elder's patience runs out. Sandame-sama, do you really think it wise to let the boy go free? And even take the exam? A random Junin, with a scar along his jaw, almost screamed. After a deep sigh, it was simply a prank. Even though we, as shinobi, see it as more of a threat to village security, to him it's just his version of revenge, said the Sandame with annoyance. See, said the man frantically, the fox is after us, and it's starting with the Hyuga to weaken us before it attacks. We must kill it before it's too late. We never should have let it live so long, said the same scarred Junin from before. In an instant the legendary professor was in front of the man, and in an icy voice that sent a shiver down everyone's spine and reminded them just who their Hokage was by the rather noticeable killing intent being emitted. I have put up with closed-minded fools like you on this matter for far too long now. If you are a shinobi who does not possess the skills to see the difference between a hero and a demon, then you have no business as a Konoha nin. The Sandame turned around and headed for his desk. Leave now and put your Hitai-8 on my desk on your way out, was the flat command after the killing intent had dispersed. Hokage-sama youca and bs or ious, said the stuttering Junin. Either that or take your time with Morino Ibiki. What? Said the Junin in horror at the idea of being at the mercy of the rumored sadist that commanded the Interrogations and Intelligence Division. You broke the law. With this simple statement, everyone knew what the Hokage meant. He may show leniency to the villagers for their barbs of demon or monster, as long as they don't touch Naruto, but for shinobi he has never been lenient on the subject. Please quiet down. I would like to hear how a 12-year-old academy student infiltrated my home, was Hiyashi's calm request. Quite. I actually am very interested as well, Kakashi added while looking over the edge of his ever-present book. As the scarred shinobi left the room, leaving his Hittite on the table, he scowled while vowing to himself, "I'll get you, demon, someday." Iruka's classroom. Well, Naruto, how'd you do it? Iruka asked a second time. I'm not sure I want to say, was Naruto's shaky reply. Why don't you, Naruto? Asked Iruka with slight irritation. It's one thing that I was able to do it for a prank sensei, but I don't want just anyone to be able to do the same. I mean, the Hyuga are a bunch of stuck-up Tems, but they're still Konoha shinobi. Really now, is that true? Was the simple comment from the bear Anbu. Yeah, I mean, I was only after their clothes to play a prank, but what if a foreign shinobi was sent to kill them? With the knowledge of what I say now, they could all be gone by morning, couldn't they? Naruto said, looking down. Sandame's office. So I guess Naruto-kun wasn't as clueless to what this prank could mean as I thought, stated the Sandame with a slight cough, a little embarrassment in his voice. Correct, Hokage-sama, but it is of utmost importance that I learn how he did it so I can correct my security problem, Hiyashi said with the classic Hyuga indifference firmly in place. Just give Iruka his time, I'm sure he'll get it out of him. Naruto may be more than he appears, but he is still a lonely and hurt 12-year-old looking for attention. The chance of getting any kind of positive attention for once will be too tempting for him to resist, one chain-smoking Junin added. Do you really think it's that simple? Hiyashi asked with a raised eyebrow as his only expression of curiosity. Naruto has always wanted a family or at least a friend, but even something as simple as a friend has been denied to him by the villagers. The only thing that seems to keep him going is the hope for the future and his dream. He strives to prove to them that he is something other than what they see. Even though he doesn't know what they see him as. If he ever found out what it is they see when they look at him, the Sandame closed his eyes as if in deep thought. What, Hokage-sama? Asked the red-eyed Junin with honest concern. I'm afraid we may lose him. With that said, the Sandame returned to staring into the glowing crystal. Iruka's classroom. Naruto, don't you think it's better to let others know of their flaws? That way they can be fixed instead of letting them stay that way. If the Hyuga can be so easily infiltrated, it could be a danger to the village. Iruka said with sincerity in his voice. While this was being asked, Hinata was waking from a rather exciting dream of Naruto to hearing the current conversation's direction. Naruto-kun, you're amazing. I can't believe you were able to do it, or that you were in my room. Doing what I think you were. With that thought, the images of Hinata's recent dream passed through her head and almost sent her into blissful unconsciousness again. Alright. But if I'm going to go through all this, why don't you get one of the head Hyuga here so they can hear it as well? I don't want to repeat this again, was Naruto's defeated reply. At that moment there was a puff of smoke to signify someone entering, and not just any Hyuga had appeared, it was Hiyashi himself in all his emotionless glory. Please, continue. I am most interested in how a lowly academy student was able to enter not only my home but my own bed chamber unnoticed. Two-san is here. Naruto-kun, I hope you will be alright, thought Hinata as she looked on with worry. Shit. Well, I was hoping not to see you until the hearing, and I don't appreciate being called lowly by you. Naruto said with a very foxy grin. Why is that, Naruto-san? Asked Hiyashi. Well, first, I am the one who got past those so-called all-seeing eyes of yours, so I doubt that I'm lowly. Also, it's normally not a good thing to be in the same room as the man whose boxers you hung from the Hokage Tower, said Naruto with the foxy grin still in place. As he said this, he pointed out a window, and lo and behold, hanging from the heights of the tower are a string of about 15 pairs of cream-colored boxers, one of which had orange spots on them. Hiyashi's face light up a bright red followed by giggles from the class. He then gave Naruto a glare that made the entire class, especially Hinata, cringe. Please. Tell me, Naruto-san, why you found the need to humiliate not only myself but my entire clan. A hint of anger entering his voice. Alright, I guess I could tell you. While Naruto's mouth went on autopilot, retelling the events of 2 nights ago outside Ichiraku Ramen, his mind was busy sorting through all the information he had on his classmates to make sure it was all right to tell them about his trip into the compound. Let's see, first off is Yamanaka Ino. A rather pretty girl with long blonde hair which she keeps in a ponytail, has blue eye, and wears a purple outfit with bandages wrapped around her legs in midsection. She has good shinobi skills, but just like almost every girl has an Uchiha Sasuke obsession. Also, she's the heir to the Yamanaka clan, which uses mostly mind-altering nin and genjutsus. She's no threat. She may be a gossiper, but she has to keep the details of her family jutsu secret, so she clearly knows how to keep important secrets. Haruno Sakura. She has shoulder-length pale pink hair that she keeps tied back with a red ribbon, jade green eyes, and a red Chinese dress with a white circle on the back. She's probably the weakest kunoichi in the whole village, but is decently skilled on the basics, and very book smart, but that's about it. She also screams like a banshee, and she's hopelessly infatuated with Sasuke. When I first met her, I found her rather cute, but that died quickly after the first time I asked her to hang out or train. She screamed right in my face that I was a loser and couldn't compete with Sasuke. That ended that attraction rather quickly. Overall, she should be smart enough not to tell anyone, so she's no threat here. Hyuga Hinata. A shy girl with short indigo hair, lavender-colored eyes, and soft features. She wears a baggy coat emblazoned with the burning flame, the crest of the Hyuga, the most prestigious clan in the village and probably the country. She also wears black trousers and normal shinobi sandals. She's very shy around people and often blushes when I lock eyes with her. Otherwise, she's one of the better students in the class. Great intelligence, excellent combat and survival skills, never gloats about her achievements, and is very humble. One of the more likable girls for her lack of a Sasuke obsession and the fact she always acts so nice to me. Of course, she's nice to everyone, so I shouldn't take it special, but so few are nice to me it's hard not to. Well, she is a Hyuga, so she clearly won't be telling people how to sneak into her home. Then again, those panties, I could be all wrong about her, nah. Nara Shikamaru. A guy who complains about anything and says everything is mendokus, troublesome. He has long black hair that he keeps up in a pineapple reminiscent manner. He wears a thin gray vest over a fishnet shirt and black knee-length trousers. Despite his slacker attitude, he's a genius. At least that's what I can figure out from his frequent games of shogi and go he plays in class. Heir to the Nara clan, which uses shadow-based jutsus. If he's even awake to hear this, then he won't tell anyone. It would be too mendokus. Threat level 0. Akamaiki Choji. A big-boned guy who often stuffs his face with chips he pulls out of HI sand as Shikamaru's best friend. He has brown hair and swirls on his cheeks. He wears a green overcoat with matching shorts and a white shirt that says, "Eat," on the front with bandages on his arms and legs. He excels in heavy striking taijutsu thanks to his family's art of increasing the size of their bodies and limbs. He hates it when people call him fat. I would avoid doing that at all cost. He is the heir to the Akamaiki clan. He would never betray Konoha. Besides, Choji's too nice to spread around info like that. Even if he stops eating, he's no threat. Inuzuka Kiba. A boy with a very feral appearance that smells and even acts like a dog. He's loud enough to give Sakura some competition and always brings a small dog with him in his coat, named Akamaru. He wears black pants and a fleece-cuffed hooded jacket. I just call him Dog Boy. The only thing that he has that is greater than his loudness is his arrogance. He's heir to the Inuzuka clan that raise dogs as nin animals and trackers. Most of their jutsus seem to revolve around the partnership with them. They also seem to possess slightly heightened senses that can be strengthened by adding chakra to their noses. In the end, he's got strong pack mentality. With Konoha being his pack, you never betray the pack. Aburame Shino. A silent guy that speaks only when necessary and is very intelligent. He wears dark round sunglasses, a high-collar gray coat that covers the lower half of his face, and brown pants. His hair is spiky and unruly in appearance. As far as I know, his family's very mysterious and he's ruthless when fighting. He likes to talk to bugs, it seems. All I know about his jutsu and clan is that it's rumored that they use bugs as weapons. He would have to talk to someone other than his bugs for him to tell people. Then again, they say it's always the quiet ones, just look at Hinata. And finally, Uchiha Sasuke. Best in class, village heartthrob, and born from one of the greatest clans in the village. His clan was all wiped out about 5 years ago, and now he's declared himself an avenger of a noble cause, to find and kill the murderer of his clan. He has a handsome face, black spiky hair, and onyx eyes. He wears a blue turtleneck shirt, white shorts with bandaged legs, with white slips over his forearms. He and I have always been silent rivals. He's always been ahead of me in classroom abilities, but I never cared about that anyway. He won't tell anyone, he keeps everything to himself, in hopes that he can use it, typical Uchiha. Naruto took a breath before resigning himself. May as well just get this over with, was how Naruto finished his thoughts before catching up with his mouth. After that strange jutsu was over, I was unconscious for about 20 to 35 minutes. Once I woke up, Tsukijiji and Ayame Nichan told me that the other two had thrown me in the dumpster next to the stand before leaving. It took me about another 15 minutes before I could feel my chakra normally. Then once I could move, I headed off to plan my revenge. I mean prank. Naruto finished his explanation with a little slip of the tongue. You recovered from a Hake Rokujuyansho in only 35 minutes. Was the shocked statement from Iruka. As Naruto looked around the room, he could see the Anbu had tensed, Hiashi was glaring at him, and Hinata was looking star-struck, all of which made him somewhat curious. Is that special or something? I was kind of out of it at the time because of the strike to my head, but the jutsu didn't seem that powerful. When Naruto finished, he heard a sharp intake of breath from a few select people. Naruto-san, that jutsu is one of the 5 strongest jutsu the Hyuga clan possesses. While we do possess much stronger ones, it normally takes a person at least a week to recover from a direct hit like you received. For you to do it in less than an hour, with no medical attention, is impressive. Though he was truly thinking it was impossible, even though he was looking at the proof right in front of him, you do realize if you had come to me with this, I would have dealt with them myself. You didn't have to punish my whole clan for the crimes of 3. Hiashi said a little reluctantly. What? Asked Naruto, honestly confused about what Hiashi meant. It is against clan law to use any of our high-level jutsu in such a way. They are only to be used in serious situations, and a street brawl is defiantly not a serious situation. After your punishment, I would like you to point them out, said Hiashi while glaring. Not only had the offending Hyuga broken clan laws, but they committed assault, possibly treason, and may have broken the Third's law as well. Their fate would be up to the Hokage if they broke that law. Naruto looked serious for a second. Okay, how about we leave it at that and I finish my explanation? It's already 9:45 and I still need to take the exam, said Naruto while sweat dropping. That's right. I'm sorry, Hiashi-sama, but I will have to ask you to leave, pleaded Iruka. My apologies, Iruka-san, but until I hear the explanation I will not be leaving, stated Hiashi, believing Iruka did not understand the seriousness of the situation. You will be attending the hearing to decide Naruto's punishment, won't you? Of course, how could I not? Well, he will have to explain it again in front of the council anyway, so you can hear it tomorrow with the rest. I'm sorry, but I really need to start the exam right now, Uruka said forcefully. After glaring at one another for a moment, Hiyashi finally decided to back down for the time being. Very well, Uruka-san. I will see you in the council meeting tomorrow, Naruto-san. With that, Hiyashi puffs out of the room. After some murmuring from the students, Uruka began the long process of regaining control of his students. Sandame's office. You disappeared rather quickly, Hyuga-san, Kakashi said in a bored tone. Well, if the boy was going to need a Hyuga present to tell his story to, why not the head of the clan? Said Hiyashi with a raised eyebrow. I suppose, but I believe it was a good thing Naruto held off telling everyone. I don't believe this is something an academy class needs to hear. As soon as the hearing takes place and he's made his statement, I will classify this as a top secret village security issue, said the Sandame in all seriousness. If that is what you think is best, Hokage-sama, Hiyashi stated in a relaxed tone. You are all dismissed for today. The ones who need to be at the hearing know who you are. I expect you there by 10 a.m. Kakashi, don't be late or I will outlaw Jiraiya's smut. With that, everyone filed out of the Sandame's office, leaving the wizened leader to his own thoughts once again. You're just one surprise after another, Naruto-kun. I wonder what headache you will create for me next. Hopefully it will be one that won't require as much paperwork. Damn paperwork, thought the Sandame as he pulled out his own copy of Ika Ika Paradise, making sure he was alone. Uruka's classroom. Alright, Naruto, please take your seat so we can start. I will now explain the Genin exam. We're running close on time, so please hold any questions until the end of the explanation. After Uruka had said this, Mizuki walked through the door with a couple of sacks and a stopwatch. Uruka, what's going on? They haven't even started the written test yet. They should be ready for the practical exams by now, was Mizuki's clipped reply. Well, we became a little held up, so we're behind by about 30 minutes, Uruka said this, sending a glance at Naruto for Mizuki to follow. After some annoyed glaring at Naruto from Mizuki, he said, well, I suppose that's alright. I'll pass out the test while you explain it to them, Mizuki said while putting down the bags. Thanks. This test will come in 5 parts to determine what you have learned in your time in the academy and make sure you can function properly in the real world. You were not only taught shinobi skills here, you were taught the basics of life. Correct, Uruka-sensei. Even though you will not fail because of low scores in some areas of the exam, if you can't perform at least the basics well enough, you will definitely fail, was Mizuki's comment as he passed out the tests. Correct, Mizuki. The test will be given in this order. First will be the written test on information such as geography, history, math, and tactics. Next will be the weapons test of kunai and shuriken. After that will be the obstacle course to test your ability to detect traps and your stealth ability. Next will be the taijutsu test. Finally, you will be tested on the jutsu taught in the academy. More information will be given before each section begins. Any questions, anyone? After no one raises their hand, Uruka continues on. Alright, you will have 45 minutes for this test starting now. Any cheating and you will automatically fail. Later outside the academy. Damn, that was rough. I didn't know I was that bad with things like history. Other than the geography, I could barely answer any of the questions on that test, said Naruto to himself looking down. It's okay, Naruto, the written portion isn't really a requirement as long as you don't completely flunk, it's alright. Uruka tried to reassure him. Thanks, sensei, but I think I really should have paid more attention. I thought I was better than that. Mizuki then called out, attention everyone. Next will be the weapons test. Each of you will receive 8 kunai and shuriken. You will be required to at least hit 4 vital points with each weapon, any less will be a failure. 2 will go at a time. First up. As the testing went on, with no true order to the names called, students threw their weapons with no one getting higher than a 12 out of a possible 16. Then Mizuki called out, last 2 Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto. As the two boys approached the posts with their weapons on their sides ready for use, their eyes locked and everyone knew what was to come. Naruto may be a baka, but he's the only one that can come close to Sasuke with throwing weapons. It was a challenge between the two. Well, Dobi ready to lose again? Was Sasuke's smirking challenge. If you're ready to give up your gay lifestyle and use those fan girls of yours. At this, Sasuke blushes slightly and glares harshly at Naruto while a group of fan girls in the background are calling for Naruto's death for the insult and catcalls to Sasuke to take the advice. What would you know, Dobi? Slightly sputtered Sasuke. Alright, you two get ready and start, yelled Mizuki. At this call, both of the rivals grabbed their weapons and let them fly. The score for Sasuke is 6 out of 8 for the Kunai challenge. Very good, was the comment from Mizuki. Next, Naruto scored 7 out of 8. Excellent job, Naruto. You were only half an inch off on the last one. No way. Naruto no baka can't beat Sasuke-kun. Was the screech from the foaming fangirls, mostly Sakura. Alright, Shuriken are next ready. You won't beat me this time, Dobi. Commented Sasuke. Go. Again they let the weapons fly, and after the telltale clunk of metal hitting wood, Mizuki approached to score them. For Shuriken, Sasuke scored 8 out of 8. Perfect score, Sasuke. Naruto's score is 7 out of 8. Naruto and Sasuke tie for the top score in the weapons test. That's not fair, Mizuki-sensei. Sasuke-kun should win, not Naruto no baka. At this, all the boys' sweat drop at the stupidity of it all. Girls, I'm sorry. That is what the score is, and that's it. Iruka said, thinking he was too old to deal with fangirls at the ripe age of 17. Hee hee, that's right, I'm the best. Naruto bragged lightly. Last time. Go. Again they let the weapons fly, and after the telltale clunk of metal hitting wood, Mizuki approached to score them. For Shuriken, Sasuke scored 8 out of 8. Perfect score, Sasuke. Naruto's score is 7 out of 8. Naruto and Sasuke tie for the top score in the weapons test. That's not fair, Mizuki-sensei. Sasuke-kun should win, not Naruto no baka. At this, all the boys' sweat drop at the stupidity of it all. Girls, I'm sorry. That is what the score is, and that's it. Iruka said, thinking he was too old to deal with fangirls at the ripe age of 17. Hee hee, that's right, I'm the best. Naruto bragged lightly. Next is the obstacle course. The course starts as one path and splits into 3. Every path is different and is littered with traps, none lethal of course. Also, throughout the course are bells. Every time you ring a bell, a point will be deducted from your score. Some of the more obvious traps will ring a bell when set off. Others, bells may ring by simply moving sloppily around the course. Along any given path are 15 bells. We completely expect you to at least set off 5 of them. Don't feel bad if you do, even Mizuki and I will at least set off 1 or 2. This test is also timed. You have 10 minutes to get through. Every additional 30 seconds after that will be counted as a rung bell. If you ring 10 or more bells, you fail. Understand? Iruka moves to the start of the course and calls to start. One by one every student took their turn, and to some people's surprise quite a few failed this portion. After about an hour they finally called the one person everyone had been waiting to see try this. Uzumaki, Naruto, you're up, called Mizuki. As Naruto took his starting place, a select few in the crowd were having their own thoughts on the test. Alright, Dobi, let's see if all this skill of yours I've been hearing about is a fluke or not, Sasuke growled. Naruto-kun, do your best. Blushed Hinata. Show me what you've got, demon. Let's see if you will work for my plans or not. Begin, was Iruka's loud cry. In a sprinting start, Naruto disappeared into the forest. A short time later, it's been 5 minutes and still no rung bells. Could he have gotten himself caught in a trap? Asked Mizuki with a slight frown. I'm not sure, but it takes even Chunin like me and you 8 minutes to get through that course, stated Iruka. The Dobi probably got lost in there, Sasuke said with an arrogant smirk. I knew he wasn't that good. Yeah, Sasuke-kun is right. Naruto no Baka got caught by the simplest trap in there. Was Sakura's comment. Cha. That pathetic Naruto is stuck and is going to have Sasuke-kun go rescue his spiky ass. Inner bitch. With a growl of annoyance from Sasuke, they all returned to watching the exit. Not even 2 minutes later, Naruto appeared flying out of the opening without a sound as he landed and with 3 minutes to spare. Naruto, you did the entire course in only 7 minutes without ringing a single bell. Shouted Iruka. Of course, Iruka-sensei. This was only slightly harder than the Hyugas. As Naruto said this, he threw 15 small bells at Iruka's feet and began walking towards the taijutsu field. I guess it wasn't just luck at the Hyuga compound after all, Mizuki said with a twinkle in his eye. Not only that, but if Naruto was able to go the whole course in 7 minutes without ringing a single bell and even collecting them, his stealth must be Junin level, or even better. Iruka sounded shocked. After this was said, everyone could hear Sasuke growl while walking to the taijutsu field. So the Dobi has stealth. That won't make him strong. It just makes him sneaky. That's it, he's no match for the last Uchiha. I'm an Avenger and that means I have to be the strongest. We will see who the best is, Dobi. On the walk to the next testing area, the students couldn't help but to gossip about Naruto's skills. Can you believe Naruto did that? Ino gasped out. No, he must have cheated. There's no way he beat Sasuke-kun. Sakura shrieked. He did get through without ringing a bell. He has to be good at something. I guess that's stealth. Huh, Akamaru. Arf arf. Kiba asked out loud to his dog. I had one of my insects follow everyone when they went in. He did not cheat, stated the ever calm Shino. Munch, what do you, Munch, think about it, Shikamaru? Choji asked between munches. Mendokus, I honestly think he's better than what he shows. He's like me, he doesn't try. It's not worth it, Shikamaru yawned. So what? He's good at stealth. He's still a Dobi. Sakura just looked at Sasuke dreamily. Cha. Sasuke-kun's right. Naruto no Baka is no match. Inner bitch. Naruto-kun, I hope you pass and we get on the same team. That would be wonderful, a mind-stuttering Hinata thought, blushing. Here we will have the taijutsu portion of the exam. Each of you will have a turn sparring with either me or Mizuki. We will be grading you on speed, stamina, and technique. Then we'll give each of you an overview of your skills before moving on to the ninjutsu test, was Iruka's explanation. One at a time, each student had their turn sparring. It was about 11:23 a.m. by the time everyone finished. Alright everyone, there will be a change of plans because of how late it is. We will give each of you a private explanation of our decision, then you will be released for lunch. Everyone met with the sensei they had sparred with for their grade. Some left with proud smiles and some left slightly sweating, while others looked like they'd been stabbed with a kunai. As Naruto was approaching Iruka, he began to sweat because he knew he hadn't done very well. To start, Naruto, your stamina and form are good, but you're too slow, your movements are very choppy, and your reach is too short. Iruka knew he hit a soft spot with this one. Naruto has always been sensitive about being the shortest in class, but he knew he needed to hear this to improve. If this was a pass or fail grade, I'm afraid you would have failed, Iruka said very quietly. Am I really that bad, sensei? Naruto asked in a subdued voice. Iruka smiled softly as he put a comforting hand on Naruto's shoulder. It's okay, Naruto, you have the best stamina I have ever seen in an academy student. Heck, even most Chunin don't have your kind of stamina, but I think the basic style we teach here just isn't right for you. It's meant for straight out combat, but with your size it's just not right. When you get with your Junin sensei, ask him for a style with a lot of dodging and quick hits. Just work on your speed, power, and get a more suitable taijutsu style and you'll be fine. That's what this test is for after all. It's better to find these things out now instead of later. Thanks, Iruka-sensei, said Naruto with a broad grin in place. Now get to lunch and don't be late for the last part of the exam. After Naruto had run off, Iruka poofed back to the classroom to meet up with Mizuki to review and grade the last 4 exams. In the classroom, "How's it looking, Mizuki?" asked Iruka. "Actually, pretty good so far. Out of the 40 students, it looks like between 23 and 28 will pass," stated Mizuki. "That's good news. Let's finish grading these quick so we can get ready for the last portion, since it will probably take 2 hours to get through them all." "You're right, but it still worries me some," said Mizuki as he set down the papers. "What does?" asked Iruka as he leaned against the wall. "Well, I'm sure some of these kids should pass from what I've seen over the year, but they aren't or are really close." Iruka let out a heavy sigh. "You mean like Naruto?" "Yes. It seems he is either excellent at something or he downright at it. I know he should pass, but he's right on the fence. It all comes down to the ninjutsu portion. All we can do is to wait and see how he does. In the end, it comes down to Naruto." Outside the academy, Naruto was enjoying a few rice balls under a tree. "I wonder how I'm doing. I did horrible on the written test, but sensei said it wasn't a requirement. My stealth and weapon technique were high scores, but my taijutsu would have been a failure. I guess all I can do is wait and see how I do on the ninjutsu test." Just as Naruto was finishing up his lunch, a few of his classmates went walking by, heading back to class as the bell sounds. "Well, this is it. I guess all I can do is my best. Naruto-kun, you're so strong. I wish I could be like that, but I can't even find the courage to talk to you," Hinata thought while frowning as she watched Naruto go. Back in the classroom, everyone was taking their seats as Hinata walked in. "Hinata, you're late," said Iruka as he looked up from his desk. "Sorry, Iruka-sensei. It's all right, Hinata. Just take the seat next to Naruto so we can get started." "Hi, sensei." As Hinata was climbing the steps to take her seat, the only thing she could think of was, "I'm sitting next to Naruto-kun. This is my big chance to get him to notice me. If I can't get to him now and he's placed on a different team, then I may never get another chance with him. I've got to do it now." With these thoughts in mind, Hinata finally takes her seat with resolve. "Everyone, this is the final portion of the exam. You will be called down one at a time into this room over here to take the test. We will be testing you on your skills with the Henge transformation, Kawarimi replacement, and Bunshin no Jutsu clone. Now, just being able to perform the jutsu won't be enough to pass. You must be able to perform it with decent control, speed, and form. In other words, if you create 3 clones but it takes you 2 or 3 minutes to do it, you will fail. This test is to make sure you can be efficient in the field already. If you aren't up to that level, you will just be wasting the Junin's time." "Any questions?" asked Iruka hurriedly. At the end of the explanation, Naruto drops his head on the desk, hard drawing a few stairs while he thought, why did it have to be Bunshin no Jutsu? Henge and Kawarimi I can do, but Bunshin is my worst jutsu. What am I going to do? Am I really going to fail after all I've done? Naruto-kun, I know you will do your B street, stuttered Hinata in a whisper. "Huh, oh Hinata, when did you get here?" asked Naruto. Hinata looks down, heartbroken, her resolve gone. "He didn't even know I sat next to him. He really doesn't notice me. Thanks for the cheers, but my Bunshin, it's my worst jutsu." Hinata blushes at the foul language. "I'm sure you can do it if you try, Naruto-kun. You never give up." After thinking a moment, "You're right, Hinata. You never know until you try." "Thank you," said Naruto with his grin back. "Hyuga, Hinata, you're next." Hearing this, Hinata looks at Naruto, then starts her way down the steps. "Good luck, Hinata, I know you'll pass, you're great." After hearing this, Hinata blushes a deep red. "Maybe I do have a chance. DNKU Naruto-kun." One after another, shinobi to be enter and exit the room. A few minutes after entering, they leave wearing a shiny new Hitai of Konohara with their heads lowered in shame. Then the moment came. "Uzumaki Naruto," was the call of Mizuki. "Well, it's time to give it my all. You fail." Those were the only words to leave Iruka-sensei after Naruto's failure to produce a passable bunshin during the final exam. Naruto, I just don't understand why you can't perform this jutsu, said Iruka with a frown. I don't know sensei, but I really wanted to pass, I really tried, said Naruto looking down. Iruka, you know we could let him pass, was Mizuki's reply. He performed excellent on the other portions of the exam. Stealth, field exercises, shuriken and kunai all were above average scores. We really could pass him. These words had Naruto looking up at them both with hope in his eyes. That's true, Mizuki, but you forgot to mention his written test, taijutsu, chakra control or his bunshin just now. After Iruka said those words, all hope left our hero's eyes once again. I'm sorry, Naruto, but with your score on the written exam and your failure to perform a working bunshin, I can't pass you, was Iruka's flat reply. I'm sorry, but you still have next year. This is your first try and I promise to help you over the break so you're ready for next year. But sensei, that's not fair, came from Naruto with fire in his eyes. I'm sorry, but I believe that you're just not ready yet. Why? Just because I can't make a worthless illusion, was Naruto's hot-headed reply. Naruto, the ability to make bunshin is the basic of the basics. If you can't even do that yet, then you are definitely not ready for anything more advanced, was Iruka's reply. Growling, Naruto shouted, prove it. Iruka stood up with a deep sigh and an irritated look and motioned Naruto to attack with a simple hand gesture. This is for the best, hopefully I can teach him how important the basics are. Now's my chance to prove I can pass without that stupid jutsu, were Naruto's thoughts just before his charge. Naruto came charging in with all the speed he could. Although the instant he reached Iruka, the Chunin had split into 5 copies. I told you, Naruto, you're too slow. After his shock, Naruto began striking as fast as he could to find the real one. One by one they began phasing out of existence when hit. To his shock, when he landed the last strike thinking to hit his solid sensei, it again just dispersed. What? Where did sensei go? Without warning, one of the chairs behind him poofed into smoke and before he knew it there was a kunai at his throat. The next thing he heard was Iruka's voice. This is why we teach those jutsu here at the academy. They may be the simplest ones, but they are the most useful and will probably save your life countless times in your career as a shinobi. They are the basis of all shinobi styles and if used properly can be the best option. Until you can perform them, you will not pass. I'm sorry, Naruto. Outside the academy, Naruto sat on the tree swing to think about everything that had happened today and in his life. It wasn't an enjoyable train of thought. Every memory led to another bad experience, and the more he thought about it, the harder it was to find happy memories. Why do these things happen to me? My whole life has been a living hell, and now this on top of it. Iruka was one of the few people I thought I could trust too. I don't get it. I'm as good as Sasuke with weapons, the best in stealth, can perform Kawarimi no Jutsu without hand seals, and am one of the best with henge. I even created my Warok no Jutsu. Even Iruka fell for it. So what if I didn't pay attention to history or the other boring stuff, have the best chakra control or can make worthless illusions? These were his thoughts as he sat there and watched all the kids that passed being praised by their friends and family. He heard words like, I'm so proud. That's my boy. You're getting a special treat tonight. How he just wished he could have that just once instead of the cold stares and hatred. The next words made him curse his slightly above average hearing. That's him, isn't it? He's one who didn't pass, right? Asked one woman. The one on the swing attached to the tree. Good. Can you imagine if it had passed? That monster a ninja. Imagine it. That worthless demo. Shish. You know the law, was the discussion of the two women. Every word stung a little harder and his mask was falling piece by piece and all he could do was glare as hard as he could. Unknown to him there were 2 sets of eyes on him at that moment thinking very different things. Poor Naruto-kun, you look so sad and hurt. I wish I had the courage to comfort you, to be there for you, but I'm so weak I can barely get near you, was one sweet thought. The other was much more sinister in intent. There you are, you damn demon. After tonight I'll be the hero that finally finished what the Yondaime started and end up being more powerful than a cage. That fool Sandame will never know Kukuku. What do you want, Mizuki-sensei? Asked Naruto in a solemn voice. Haha, I knew you had the best sensory abilities of your class, Naruto, was Mizuki's weak cover. Not really, you were laughing kind of creepy. Naruto, you do know Iruka wasn't trying to be mean, don't you? Mizuki said. I know, but I really wanted to graduate and he didn't have to fail me the way he did. Iruka just wants the best for you. You know he's an orphan too. Naruto couldn't help but swing his head towards Mizuki. I think he sees himself in you and because of that he's trying to steer you away from the same mistakes he made. Naruto seemed to relax once again as he turned back to the other kids. I still want to be a shinobi though. I don't want to go through another year of the academy. I understand, Naruto, but you know there may still be a way for you to pass if you're willing to try. With this he had Naruto's full attention. What do I have to do? Asked Naruto with hope. He perfect, you damn demon. Follow me, Naruto, and I'll explain everything. Finally, I will finally have everything I want and you will take all the blame, Kukuku. Later in the dark of night we find our hero leaping through the trees with a large scroll on his back, a smile on his face and more than a little hope in his eyes. Taking this scroll was too easy. I thought when Gigi found me I was done for, but one Warok no Jutsu and he went down. All I need to do to pass is learn one jutsu from this scroll, then show it to sensei and I'm in. But first I need to get to the shack. A few minutes later Naruto found himself outside a broken up wood shack in the forest. Is this the right place? It matches the description Mizuki-sensei gave me, but he's not here yet. Well, I did take the scroll 3 hours before he told me to. After scanning the area and finding a good area to practice, Naruto opens the scroll and begins to read. Guess I should get started. No reason not to use the extra time I've got. Let's see, the first jutsu is Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone, not more clones. Well, maybe this is a different jutsu than what they teach in the academy. As Naruto reads the description of the jutsu he gets a sick feeling in his stomach, so he begins to skim the contents of the scroll quickly. That just made the feeling 10 times worse. Quote exclamation mark. This can't be right. There's no way Ji-san would use a scroll like this for a genin test. The jutsu in here are crazy. Did I grab the wrong scroll? It's too late now. Anyway, maybe if I learn one of these they will still let me pass. When Naruto begins to practice Kage Bunshin he suddenly has an idea. I probably will never get to see this scroll again after this because of how powerful the jutsu are, or at least not until I become Hokage. I know. I'll copy down the ones that seem doable and non-lethal for me, and practice them later. He then pulls a scroll out of his supply pouch and begins copying his chosen jutsu, or at least the ones that won't kill him. 2 hours after Naruto took the scroll, Hokage-sama, Naruto has crossed the line this time, yelled a random Junin. We can't let him get away with the scroll of sealing. Every Hokage has added dangerous kinjutsu to that scroll since before the village was formed. It even contains the secrets of the seal that holds back the fox. Whimpered a Chunin. I understand your worries and we will get the scroll back. Everyone spread out and search. I want Naruto back here alive, with the scroll. Hi Hokage-sama. With a wave of the Sandame's arm all of the shinobi before him disappeared in a blur and a kick-up of dust. After his orders were given, the Sandame heads back to his office and takes out his crystal ball once again. Naruto, I don't know why you would have taken the scroll, but I have a bad feeling about this. How did you even know about it? Most Junin don't know where it is hidden. I intend to find out though. The crystal ball begins to faintly glow. He began his search where he had been looking before catching Naruto searching for the scroll. Damn, Haruno-san is still at the hot springs. No, must look for Naruto. And so he looked following after the many shinobi looking for the boy, using willpower known only to the cages themselves. Back with Naruto. Damn, out of all these jutsu I can only understand a handful. Even less of them aren't straight out suicide. Let's see how many I've got. 5 jutsu and one is supposed to have high level variations. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone, B-ranked Kinjutsu, creates solid clones of the user by evenly distributing the user's chakra between them. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shuriken Shadow Clone, B-ranked Kinjutsu, creates solid clones of any small object X, kunai and shuriken. Bakuretsu Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Exploding Shadow Clone, A-ranked Kinjutsu, creates an exploding Kage Bunshin that can be detonated by the creator's will or by being dispelled. Kokuongyu no Jutsu, Bringer of Darkness, A-ranked Genjutsu, creates an illusion of complete darkness over a set area. It traps the opponent in absolute darkness. While inside the illusion the senses of sight, sound, and touch are disrupted. One may see their own body, but once trapped inside the illusion it cannot be dispelled unless by the user or someone outside the affected area. Therefore defending oneself is extremely hard if trapped in this jutsu. Shunshin no Jutsu, Body Flicker, C-rank ninjutsu, gives an extreme burst of speed to travel in a set area. The target must be within the line of sight of the user. Out of the 100 or so jutsu on this scroll only 5 are usable for me. All the ones I can use are kick-ass jutsu, but I thought there would be a lot more. This genjutsu sounds interesting and with my nose it would give me a great advantage. I just wonder if this will be any different from learning the Bunshin no Jutsu. Oh well, there's a few left, maybe one of them. As Naruto read on to the second to last jutsu he landed on an interesting one. Hitoshirezu Kensai no Jutsu, Hidden Power, S-ranked Kinjutsu. This jutsu finds its roots at the beginning of shinobi skills. Some believe this to be one of the first jutsu created back when chakra was only used to improve one's speed and strength for hand-to-hand combat. Some also believe that chakra was originally used to power special weapons, but no proof has been found to support this. To continue, every person naturally has chakra held in reserve by their body to ensure it will have enough to survive. Though the amount kept back is far greater than what is needed for the body to survive. A person only really needs around 5 to 10% of their maximum chakra capacity to support their body. They will be suffering from chakra depletion at this level but easily still alive. The average person has almost 25% of their chakra inaccessible because of this survival reserve that is subconsciously held. You can train to access this chakra with extreme diligence or dangerous kinjutsu, X, the 8 celestial gates over many years, but with this jutsu you can call up your reserve chakra to use as you will. This does put strain on the body and can have unknown effects, but compared to some of the kinjutsu that produce the same effects this would be the preferred way. Be warned, never use this jutsu when you are low on chakra. Warn from battle or training, for you risk death from the chakra depletion. Other than this it is a very useful jutsu to have for emergencies. The reason it has been sealed away is clearly the danger to an inexperienced user, so be careful and use it as a last resort. I found this jutsu in my travels and battles outside the village. Good luck and train hard. The Yondaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. Cool. A jutsu used by the Yondaime himself. I've got to learn this one for sure. First off, what's the last jutsu? Shiku Fujin, Dead Demon Seal, huh? Sounds interesting, but it's way too complicated. I'll copy it down now and figure it out later. If it's the last one it must be good, said the smiling blonde to himself. If only he knew what he had just obtained, he probably never would have touched the scroll in the first place. I better learn the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu first though. Having more chakra may be good, but I doubt it will be impressive enough to let me pass. With his new scroll of Kinjutsu to learn and the thought of becoming a genin, Naruto began his training with a bounce in his step. It was nearing morning and a faint violet was appearing on the eastern horizon. The blonde boy was sitting in a hunched posture and was panting heavily. The stolen scroll was strapped to his back and seemed to be weighing him down as he fought to catch his breath. This was how Iruka found Naruto. The blonde looked up in surprise when he heard the scarred sensei land near him. I must really be out of it if I didn't sense Iruka. Usually I smell him beforehand, thought the blonde. Iruka chuckled almost menacingly as he bent over the boy. It's all over, he said with that voice that he always used when Naruto was about to get in serious trouble. Instead of noticing his sensei's dangerous expression, Naruto closed his eyes and chuckled good-naturedly. His legs wobbled slightly as he stood up, scratching the back of his head nervously. Got me already, Naruto said, slightly disappointed. You're quick, sensei. I only had time to learn 2 techniques. Standing up, Iruka peered quizzically at his blonde student. Sweat was glistening from his face and his legs seemed just barely contain the strength to hold him up. His clothes were also telling the story of his intense training. His pants were dirty, his sleeves were sliced up, and his clothes in general were torn. Iruka had only seen Naruto like this when he was training very hard. He's been out here practicing, he realized. I can tell how hard he's been working. Listen, Iruka-sensei, Naruto said suddenly, his proud grin showing. I'm going to show you one of my amazing jutsu and you're going to let me graduate. That's how it works, right? Whoever learns at least one jutsu from this scroll passes. What? Iruka asked, confused. Where'd you get that idea? Mizuki-sensei told me, Naruto said happily, almost bouncing as he felt a little of his strength returning. He told me where to find the scroll in this place. He trailed off as he noticed 2 things, Iruka's expression as he put things together and the sudden sound of kunai rushing through the air. Hearing the sound at the same time, but reacting faster, Iruka shoved Naruto out of the way of the deadly hail of daggers. The force of the multiple kunai pushed him back against the shack's shaky wall. It was extremely lucky for Iruka that he'd worn his Chunin flak jacket, or several of the kunai would have buried themselves in his chest and stomach. As it were, only one actually pierced his body, just above his right knee. I see you've found our little hideaway, a familiar voice said from the forest canopy. The Sandaime Hokage was currently sitting at his desk. In front of him was a crystal ball on a small cushion. He gazed steadily into its depths, watching the events in the forest commence. It had shocked him slightly to learn that Mizuki was the one really behind the theft of the Forbidden Scroll. He'd been monitoring all the Chunin, Junin, and Anbu that were scouring the village in a desperate attempt to find the scroll. He'd been lucky that he had paid particularly close attention to Iruka. After all, the man seemed to have a knack for finding Naruto when he had done something wrong. Other than himself, Iruka was the only one to ever find the blonde. He sighed in resignation as he listened to Mizuki's proclamation of Naruto being the Kyuubi no Kitsune. That baka didn't even know the difference between the blonde boy and the monster fox. But, apparently it hit Naruto harder than he thought it would. He expected Naruto to be mad, even furious at the village, but instead he nearly exploded with chakra from the rage he was feeling. I had no idea Naruto already had this much chakra. No wonder he can't make a bunshin. With that amount he would need close to Junin or Med Nin control to do something at that low of a level. He's simply too powerful for low-level techniques. Maybe it's time he received what his mother left for him. As Naruto raged out of control after learning of the sealing, the chakra he released was almost palatable with his sadness, rage, confusion, and regret. He had always thought that somehow he deserved his treatment. That he had done something, or maybe his parents were traitors, but to find out he was hated because something was forced onto him to protect the village. It wasn't fair. He was sacrificed for everyone and he was being punished for it. No, I can't lose my cool. That's a shinobi's worst enemy. You must never lose yourself to your emotions. I have to get my chakra under control, but it's so wild. It's like it's not even mine. I've got to bring it together. If I lose any more chakra, I'll be in trouble. To Naruto it seemed as if everything went silent as he tried to gain control of his emotions, but to Mizuki and Iruka it seemed as if Naruto was surrounded by a spinning mist of chakra that made him seem a blur of blue with small wisps of red. As the chakra finally started slowing down, Naruto became visible again and seemed to be glaring right through Mizuki. At first Mizuki was thrown off by the show of power and the glare, but after a moment he said, "Ah, I see the demon is back. You know everyone hates you. Everyone in the village does, especially Iruka." This brought fear to Naruto's eyes and Mizuki knew he had what he needed. "You are the one who killed his parents after all. He failed you for his own little revenge and you know it." After a glance at Iruka, Naruto ran straight into the forest, too afraid to hear what Iruka would say. "Naruto, wait. It's not true," Iruka desperately called. "I'll deal with the demon first, then I'll be back for you, Iruka," said Mizuki with a sneer as he jumped into the trees. As the Sandame watched the whole event through his crystal ball, he came to realize if Naruto had been trained better, this wouldn't have happened, that if he had told him his secret himself, this wouldn't have happened. "I'm sorry, Naruto. I'll make things better and I know you will get out of this perfectly. Just like your father would have." When Iruka was able to trick Mizuki, he couldn't help but smirk slightly. For all his boasts that he was superior to him, Mizuki fell for that hench quite quickly. Then, as Iruka had saved Naruto from a hail of kunai by using his body as a shield, the blonde suddenly saved Iruka from being torn apart by the traitor's giant shuriken by catching it by the large hole in the middle. As Naruto stood there over Iruka protectively, he realized he could barely feel his legs. When he dropped to one knee, Mizuki began to chuckle sinisterly. "Kukuku Naruto, you're too exhausted from your training and the chase through the forest to be a threat to me. From what I heard, you haven't even slept in the last 24 hours because of your prank." "That may be true, I'm exhausted, but a true ninja always has a trump card." As Naruto went through about 10 hand seals, he stopped on one that neither Mizuki nor Iruka could recognize, but the Sandame did. No. How could he have gotten that far in the scroll? That jutsu could kill him. After this cry of worry, many shinobi stormed into the Hokage's office only to catch a glimpse of his robes as he flew out the window. "I've got to get there in time. If I let him die, not only will I have failed him but you as well. Hitoshirezu Kensai no Jutsu." With this shout, an enormous amount of chakra surrounds Naruto, followed by a shout of Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. With that shout, the entire clearing was filled with exact duplicates of the blonde, all calling for Mizuki to attack. Just then the Sandame arrived in a tree just outside the clearing. When he noticed that the jutsu didn't have any negative effects on the boy, he decided to watch and see how everything played out. What really caught the Sandame's attention was the blonde forming a familiar cross seal that was the signature of the Kage Bunshin. The old man couldn't help but chuckle as the Kyuubi vessel filled the surrounding area with hundreds of shadow clones and the sound of Mizuki's panicked disbelief. He promptly stopped watching and turned away when all the Naruto charged. The outcome was obvious, but he had another matter to attend to, informing the searching nins of the scroll's safety. His small smile didn't fade as a stray thought crossed his mind. Minato's legacy has certainly been living up to his expectations, being the #1 most surprising shinobi of his generation, but just to be sure everything would be alright, the Sandame decided to stay until Naruto and Iruka began heading back to the village. He was glad he did, because he lived to see moments like this in his people's lives. Being Hokage means doing your best to allow these happy times, so being able to see them is a perk. Naruto could see the morning's light through his closed eyelids. Even though the light was filtered by his eyelids, it was still irritating. "Iruka-sensei, how much longer? I want to see." "Okay," the young man said quietly. "You can open your eyes now." The sight that greeted him was Iruka's smiling face. He held Naruto's goggles in one hand. But what caught the blonde's attention was that his forehead was clearly visible, devoid of his headband. That's when he realized where it had disappeared to. It was tied snugly around his own forehead. "Congratulations," Iruka said, with genuine cheer in his voice. You graduate. And to celebrate, I have a surprise, we're going out for ramen tonight. Naruto was silent. He couldn't believe all this was happening at last. He'd finally been allowed to graduate. He finally found someone who actually believed in him and didn't think him a demon. Even though he'd stolen a highly dangerous artifact from the Hokage Tower and used it, he was still allowed to become a genin. It was too much for him to put into words to describe his joy. Looking down at the blonde, the silence started to stretch until Iruka was greeted by a loud and joyful yell. "Iruka-sensei!" rang out Naruto's happy voice in his ears as he was tackled against the tree with the boy giving him a fierce hug. The Sandaime couldn't help but to smile at the sight. Things had turned out all right. He began to turn around to head back to the village when he felt something that sent a shiver down his spine and made him want to run as fast as he could. Something he hadn't felt for nearly 13 years. The chakra of the Kyuubi. When his eyes finally landed on Naruto, the boy was surrounded by a red haze of chakra that seemed to be burning him. His screams were horrible. Iruka looked horrified and was trying to hold Naruto down to stop him from clawing himself anymore. By the time the Sandaime had his senses back and was kneeling next to the boy, Naruto had already passed out from the pain. The cloud of chakra was still there, however now it was just an outline around his body which made him extremely warm to the touch and obscured their sight of him. Iruka noticed the Hokage and asked in a worried voice, "Hokage-sama, what's wrong with him?" "I don't know, but we need to get him to the hospital as fast as we can." "Hi." After their short exchange, Iruka and the Sandaime ran as fast as they could to the hospital with Naruto tucked safely in Iruka's arms and the scroll on his back. "OWWWW, that hurt. Sensei, what happened to me? It felt like I was being burned alive." Naruto suddenly realized how wet he felt. Looking around, he discovered he was in some kind of a sewer. It had dark red walls, and ankle-deep water that almost seemed black. The ceiling was riddled with blue and red pipes running into the darkness of the shadows. This, though, wasn't the strange part. The pipes were cracked in almost every place he looked. The walls looked like they had seen better days as well. Chips and cracks covered the length of them as far as he could see. There was also a faint groaning sound as if they were going to give way any second. He only caught a glimpse of it, but he could have sworn he just saw the walls pulse red. First I get thrown in a dumpster and now here. I don't know which is worse. Whoever did this could have at least picked a better sewer. As Naruto said this, he broke out into a happy grin and started to chuckle until he felt something brush against his back. Spinning around and reaching for a weapon, he called out, "Who's there?" "Damn, they took my weapons too." "Quiet down, little ninja." After hearing the deep rumbling response, Naruto was on edge. The voice was deep and powerful. As he scanned the surroundings, he noticed movement out of the corner of his eye again. As he reached around and grabbed at it, he felt a soft furry object, and when he pulled it in front of him, he noticed to his horror it was attached to him. After taking a few moments to calm himself, Naruto studied the object and realized it to be a blood-red tail with a black tip that was about 4 feet long. He also noticed the 1-inch claws on his hands, but what really got him were the 4 thick black lines running from the tips of his fingers to over his knuckles and up his arms, ending in another pattern on his upper bicep. When did I get tattoos? Naruto then began to scan the rest of his body only to notice that he was covered in the strange markings. His feet and legs matched his arms, but his chest and abdomen had a different pattern. Naruto decided to leave the marks for later, for when he could inspect them better. After taking so long to study himself, Naruto was beginning to notice several things he hadn't before. For one, there was no light here, none at all, except for the little bit of red and blue coming through the cracks in the pipes. So how was he seeing everything so clearly? He could also hear a growling from somewhere and a strange smell as well. It wasn't one he recognized, but for some reason it was familiar. As he was processing this, he reached up to scratch his head on an impulse and also felt what seemed to be cat ears at the top of his head. As he felt for his normal ears, he was shocked not to find them but to feel smooth skin in their place. As Naruto was trying to process all this, he noticed thin trails of red energy in the darkness of the water. What is that? He wondered aloud. That can't be chakra. Chakra can't be seen unless it's in huge amounts. So what is it? What the hell is going on here? I said, quiet Gaki. I do not want to hear your whining. Now come here quickly so I may answer your questions. We have much to discuss. Naruto didn't know why he did it, but he began following the signs, smells, sounds, and strangely his instincts to find the voice he had heard. His mind was screaming at him to go the other way. That the voice was dangerous and he needed to escape, but his body just kept moving. Naruto noticed that the further he went and the closer he came to the voice, the brighter the edges of the tattoos glowed. After what felt like hours, he finally found himself in a huge room, and there right in front of him were large ornate cage doors as tall as the Hokage mountain. As he slowly approached, he noticed this room was in just as much disarray as the rest of the sewer. As Naruto reached the middle of the room, an ominous red glow appeared around a sinister face behind the doors. At the same time that the glowing red figure appeared, the tattoos on his body began to glow brighter than ever. He didn't know what to do. He could only stare in shock at the huge glowing being in front of him and wonder why he too was glowing. In a deep rumbling voice the being spoke. Come closer to me, little kit. For unknown reasons, Naruto began walking closer to the cage. As he neared the doors, a giant set of claws came through the bars in an instant. Acting on pure instinct, Naruto barely moved to the left of the attack. In a smooth, clean swipe, Naruto raked his own claws against the giant one. Just as the claws met each other, the red glow from Naruto's tattoos lit up brighter than ever, nearly blinding him. The 4 long gashes in the giant claw began to glow, and to Naruto's amazement they healed right before his eyes. After Naruto jumped back a good 20 feet to make sure he was out of reach, he asked the simple question, where are we and who are you? It seems you have good instincts to dodge my strike, even though this seal stops me from acting against you, said the face in a white tone. I asked who are you and what's going on? I'm hurt, Kit. You learned of me for the first time only mere hours ago and you have already forgotten. You can blame your Yondaime for me being here, said the demon in a smoother voice. Now what is that supposed to mean? As soon as Naruto said those words, he noticed that attached to the doors of the cage, and apparently the only thing holding them shut, was a small piece of paper with the kanji for seal. It all clicked. Kyuubi. Correct, Kit. And to answer your other question, you are here because of a few changes that will be taking place because of your recent actions. What kind of changes? In a clean white room of the Konoha hospital, we find the Sandaime Hokage, Yumi no Iruka, and a glowing red Uzumaki Naruto. Currently, Naruto is lying completely still on a clean white hospital bed. To see a still Naruto at all is disturbing, but this is just unnatural. The aura surrounding him was acting as a shield of mist that ends an inch from his skin, obscuring his features. What really caught everyone off guard were the thick black strips extending over the length of Naruto's body. When they first began to appear, people just thought they were burns, but now the marks have extended the length of Naruto's body, turning and twisting into intricate patterns. The most disturbing thing, though, was the constant contractions of his muscles. Even though Naruto hadn't moved an inch since falling unconscious, his muscles have been moving constantly, expanding to dangerous levels, then collapsing in on themselves, followed by the sickening sound of breaking bones. That sound was always followed by his muscles reconstructing and compacting into more lithe and obviously more powerful forms, and then beginning all over again. This process would start at the top and work all the way down his body. It started with his jawline and his shoulders, followed by his arms, chest and back, then his legs, and finally all at once they would collapse in on themselves with that sickening crack and a slight shiver of the barrier and pulse from the markings. The whole process took just over 2 hours to complete. Each time and every single time it completed, every person in the room would wince. It was quite obvious that the process as a whole would be excruciatingly painful if the boy wasn't unconscious for it. Hokage-sama, will Naruto be alright? This change that's happening to his body is horrifying. He's been out for half a day already and this, whatever it is that's happening to his body, I just don't know what to do. I don't know Iruka. The jutsu he used before Kage Bunshin is ancient. The only person that really understood the full extent of the jutsu was the Yondaime. We have no idea of the side effects on a normal person, let alone a Jinchuriki. It is obvious that the Kyuubi is trying to do something. Maybe it's healing the boy. So you're saying we can't do anything for him? Asked Iruka with a choke in his voice. No, we can be here for him and wait for the results of the Med Nin's tests. We should be here for him when he awakens. What about the Kyuubi? Is it trying to hurt Naruto? I doubt that Iruka. The Kyuubi must be trying to heal whatever damage the jutsu did to him. The jutsu in the scroll are sealed away for a reason after all. With that said, both men turned sad eyes on the glowing form of Naruto and waited for his return. In the darkness of the collapsing sewers. What do you mean changes? Why should I even talk to you? My life has been a living hell and it's entirely your fault. Everything that has ever gone wrong in my life. Everything. As Naruto was going on with his rant, the Kyuubi had taken to blocking out his voice in preference to studying his changes more in depth. His clothes don't change when in his mindscape. I'm surprised by his different appearance though. I wonder if this is what he will look like once he absorbs enough of my Yuki or if it's just a reflection of our connection. Even if that's true, it's still years off. If only I could figure out a way for him to use my power freely without damaging himself like he has. The only way for that to happen now is for him to use it in small bursts until he adapts to it, but that's dangerous and if I wait for this ink seal to work he may die before he could use my Yuki freely. I will have to wait and see how my own attempt at seals works out. Before that jutsu he was much better off. His old system grew accustomed to my Yuki over the last 12 years. Even though this new chakra circulatory system is much stronger, it has no experience with my Yuki. If he uses too much at once, I won't be able to save him again. I guess we will have to take it in small steps until I can figure something else out. After Naruto sees the object of his fury was spacing out on him, he breaks his boiling point and yells, "Hey! I said, are you listening to me, you baka ball of fur? Answer me when I'm talking, you son of a bitch homo." When the Kyuubi snapped out of its thought process and heard this, it let out a deafening roar followed by a wave of red Yuki that sent Naruto right into a wall, further cracking it. The Kyuubi bellowed in a demonic voice filled with rage like Naruto had never known. "If you ever call me that again, I will ensure your life will be racked with pain for the rest of your existence. You will listen to me because if it wasn't for me, you and I would be dead because of your baka ass. You will be patient and quiet, or I will let you deal with these changes on your own. And you will show me the respect I deserve, or else I will kill you in such a painful way that I will be completely satisfied to die with you." As Naruto slowly pulled himself out of the wall and slowly made his way back to his previous spot with more than a little fear, he simply thought to himself, "Okay, never call the fox a bitch again, it is right though, I probably should calm down. I have no idea what's going on and that puts me at a disadvantage. I'll listen to what the fox has to say, at least until I find out what's happening to me. May I at least ask one thing, Kyuubi-san, since this does concern me mostly?" Kyuubi raised an eyebrow at the respectful tone, as long as it's respectful and short. "We are limited on time to repair your body and save our lives. You need to understand what is to happen fairly soon. Hi, thank you, but I would like to know why you saved me." Sighing, Kyuubi had to think for a moment before saying, "It's bad enough that a beautiful vixen like me has to live in a filthy mind like yours, but now I have to listen to a gaki like you as well." Naruto glared harshly as Kyuubi continued, "I saved you because our souls are intertwined by this seal, and if you had died, so would I. Also, I have to say, I have a slight respect for you. To have lived with this village and have not gone insane, it is quite the accomplishment. Arigato. I also wanted to ask, wait, Vixen, you're a girl. Showing a slight bit of surprise on her face from the comment, she said, is it that surprising? I didn't think it was that hard to figure out, Kyuubi giggling, or as close to giggling it can come to. I just never figured you for a girl, I guess. I mean, when you think of a demon, you really don't think of boy or girl, you know. I can understand that. Well, that was your one question. From here on, you will be quiet and listen. I will tell you when to ask any questions. Other than that, remain quiet. We need to hurry. Understand? I actually had another question that I didn't get answered. Too late, you will have to wait till later. You better sit down, this will take some time. With a slight pout for not getting his question, Naruto walks a little closer to the cage. At the Kyuubi's advice, Naruto took a seat in the water and tried to remain quiet for the explanation. Taking a deep breath, the Kyuubi began, to begin, I'll explain the reason why you felt so much pain before and what caused the transformation. After taking a moment to close her eyes and organize her thoughts, the ancient demoness spoke again. It was because of the jutsu you used. The Hitoshirezu Kensai no Jutsu was only meant for use with Ninjin chakra. Because of me, a biju being sealed in you, once the jutsu had finished drawing out all of your latent chakra, it started to draw on my Yuki as well. So I tapped into your chakra and it hurt me. No, you tapped into my Yuki and it hurt you, and don't interrupt. Yuki is in a sense the same as chakra, just several times more potent. Now, I don't think I need to explain how much power I have compared to you, so I'll explain this to you simply. Kyuubi stared straight down into Naruto's eyes for the first time, and to his surprise, her eyes didn't hold hate, rage, or the evil of legend. They held power, knowledge, and what he thought was pity. You almost ripped yourself apart from the inside out by flooding yourself with 10 times the amount of Yuki you were ready to control. If you were older or more experienced with it, you may have had a chance, but it was just too soon. What? I thought you said I wasn't dead. You lied to me, you son of a bit. GGGGRRRRRRR. Gulp. Vixen. Naruto subconsciously curls his tail around himself and flattens his ears in a very vulpine way. That's better, but I am female, so the son thing doesn't work, and this is your last warning with that insult. To continue, you are not dead. If you were dead, we wouldn't be here, she said with a very noticeable twitch to her eye and barely restraining her giggle for his fox-like behavior. Why does he have to call me a bitch? Anything else would do, but to call me a ing dog of all things. Where is here anyway? Asked Naruto, pointing his ears up again. Breaking away from her thoughts, Kyuubi said, we are currently inside of your mind while I'm repairing your body. So I'm going to be okay. I'm going to live, asked a hopeful Naruto. Yes, you will live, but as I said before, there will be some changes as well as some setbacks in you using my power. Before Naruto could ask about anything, the Kyuubi continued her explanation. To be more specific about where we are, we're in the mindscape that is the meeting place between our souls that this seal creates. Naruto looked confused. As per the norms, since meeting the Kyuubi, our souls are meeting. How can our souls be speaking to each other? Just as with the physical manifestations you see now, the mindscape is only for our comfort. We are currently talking to each other's souls, and a soul is just a collection of energy, experiences, and emotions. Would you feel more comfortable floating in an endless void staring at a cloud of red energy that is 100 times larger than your own or the beautiful me? I understand the soul thing, but if all this is for our comfort, why is it a sewer and not a ramen bar or something? Asked Naruto with a confused face and crinkled nose at the smells he was beginning to notice. That's what I thought at first when I woke up. It looks like a sewer because it's a reflection of what you have felt in your life, as well as your emotions. You should have seen it after you failed that test. Though I was going to go blind from the ugliness of this place. Naruto looked sheepish for a moment before saying, "Sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that. If that's true, then why is it all broken up and cracked? And if it can change from what I'm feeling, does that mean I change it by feeling different? It's like this now because your body is still damaged and being repaired. Whatever happens here is a reflection of your physical body and state of mind. If you pay close attention to your surroundings, you will notice it being fixed as we speak. The pipes above our heads represent your blue chakra circulatory system as well as the path my red Yuki travels. The walls represent your body, muscles, and bones. As Naruto looks around, he can see many of the cracks in the walls closing up slowly. He then notices that the walls are being marked with the same patterns as his tattoos as they are being fixed. When he looks above, he notices that the blue pipes are falling apart, showing deep purple colored ones underneath that seem to be much thicker, but not as big as the red. As for you changing this place, I don't know, and I would also advise not to try it until I'm done fixing your body. It's hard enough to bypass the seal as it is. If you break my connection with you now, we would both die. Oh, I guess I should be careful about what I'm feeling then, Kyuubi. Why are the blue pipes turning purple? Oh, that, your circulatory system was beyond repair, so I had to use my Yuki and mix it with what was left of your old coils to make new ones out of our combined energies, then solidify it into a new system of coils. The mix of red and blue caused the purple color, I suppose. By this time, Naruto was far too confused to get excited over this fact or to question it. Okay, back to these changes you've been talking about, what are they exactly? To tell you the truth, I'm not entirely sure. Naruto had a look of absolute horror on his face. Now, before you go off on one of your rants again, let me explain. When no sound came from him, she continued, when your chakra was first drawn on in such large amounts, I didn't think anything of it until it started drawing on my Yuki. Even then I just figured you were in some kind of trouble and needed it. The seal would have given it to you anyway if your emotions were distressed enough. I have no way of telling what is going on outside the seal until you draw on my power enough for me to say yes or no to how much you're taking. The seal can give you so much without my say, but once you pass into my area of control, our connection is strong enough for me to use your senses. Like when you fought those Hyuga. You mean I was using your Yuki when I did that? Yes, but you only passed the point for a moment. Now, back to what happened. As soon as you neared the limit of what your body could handle, I worked as fast as I could to reroute the Yuki to areas of your body that were already being affected by it. Normally the seal would never let me do such a thing, but with our energies mixing so chaotically, it couldn't tell my will from yours. I did this because the chosen areas could handle the power better and advance naturally while giving me time to drain the Yuki back out of your system. While I was doing this, the Yuki that I couldn't get to was able to affect other things as well, and I haven't had time to check everything yet to see what happened, Kyuubi said, looking as sheepish as a fox can. What do you mean, advance naturally, and what would these be specifically? By advancing naturally, I mean the parts of your body that were under my influence since I was sealed. These areas could handle the Yuki surging through them while the rest of your body was being destroyed by it. Before I try to explain what has happened to you specifically, I need to know what you know about demons and the Biju. I don't see what this has to do with anything, but I know a little. I know there are 9 of you Biju. You're the strongest. Many of you represent elements and can use them at will. Other than yourself, none have been seen for around 100 years. Other than that, I don't know about the specific Biju. As for demons, they live a long time, even the weakest are supposed to be quite powerful. Lower level ones were mostly wiped out hundreds of years ago, and the ones that are left other than you Biju are supposed to be easily taken care of by a Junin. Correct. I'm surprised you know so much. I will now tell you some history on demons. I know this will be boring for you, but please be just a little patient. You'll need to know this to understand what I have to tell you. 5,500 years ago, at the beginning of shinobi times, demons walked this land unchallenged. At this time, humans mostly hid away and few survived unless under the protection of a demon lord such as myself. Around this time is when the 9 Biju first arrived. You see, at that time most demons were actually Hanyo or half-demons. Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but what do you mean they were half-demons? You humans only started recording your history about 3,000 years ago, so I guess you wouldn't know. I'll explain, but this is a lot further back than I intended to go, so pay attention. Every 10,000 years, the energies of creation itself come together, bridging the 5 worlds. These worlds are heaven, hell, the demon realm, your world, and the realm of the summons. Wait, demons are from hell, right? No, that is a misconception of humans. What you humans call demons are actually elemental spirits. We only received the title of demon because of the war. I will explain about that later. To continue, Kami-sama created the worlds of heaven, hell, and earth in the beginning. For a time, that was all there was. He created man on earth for unknown reasons and allowed them to live their lives as they pleased. This was even before my time. As the ninjas' lives came to an end, they would either join him in heaven to share the knowledge of their lives with him, or be judged unworthy for the way they lived their lives and be sent to hell to be cleansed by its eternal fires. As this was being explained, Naruto's mind was strained to its limits to understand it all and was coming up short. His new ears were almost smoking.